Hi there, VC. This is a special thank you video to Ben Costello for some wonderful VCLT that he sent my way and I received on Friday, and I've been listening whenever I get the chance to the records that he sent me, so I actually have something that I can say about them as I share them. And I met up with Ben about 3 weeks ago. He was over in London very briefly. And we managed to hook up him and one of his sons, Ben Jr., for a few hours. I think it was on a Thursday in Deptford, and we had a great time. We missed our local record shop by a few minutes; it had just closed, but we had some laughs. We had a lot of chat, and I can say, in the flesh, Ben is even more warm, charismatic, friendly, and generous. A lovely man. Very pleased to have met him. And again, I think it goes to prove what an amazing place the VC is. My 17-year-old daughter was looking on, amused, I think, when I said that I'd met with Ben, and then another package arrived, and I think she thinks it's amazing, because obviously most adults are telling teenagers, don't meet anybody that you come across online, and be very careful and be frightened of everything. And I think the VC, there's something about the fact that we can all see each other. We're just upfront, honest. We want to share. It's all about sharing our passion and love of music, and it's a very warm and kind community. And Ben is a great example, a living example. And I think it's a fantastic place where we can all just share what it's like to actually be human and to be good to each other. So there we go. That's my thoughts on the VC. So first up, we have a fantastic album, music from the Penguin Cafe. So this is my first vinyl that I have from these guys. My wife has always been a fan, and I haven't really heard very much of their music. I mean, I'm aware that they've become kind of quite fashionable sort of after the event, really, and their music's been used on a lot of commercials and jingles. And so I was actually really pleasantly surprised listening to this album to find out that it was far more abstract, experimental, avant-garde, hard to categorize. And it's on the it's on an Obscure 7 label, I think, that Eno was putting together, where he was also platforming artists like Harold Budd, and basically sharing that kind of emerging ambient scene from the mid-70s. And this is a wonderful album. It's a wonderful album. I've only really had a chance to listen to it through a couple of times, but very different, very diverse, all kinds of flavours and moods and instrumentation and sounds, and just very hard to categorise, which, as you know, anybody who tunes into me, is always a big plus for me. And Simon Jeffs is the composer. He's also plays the electric guitar and brings together cello, violin, electric piano, and some voice as well on this. And he died, I think, in the 90s. He had sadly had a brain tumour, and possibly didn't really see some of the success that has actually come the way of the music that he was such an important part of. And I know his son is carrying on the name and legacy of the band, which is great. So I'm looking forward to investigating more Penguin Cafe Orchestra. Thank you very much, Ben. What a great way to kick things off. Then I knew this was coming, as Ben had told me. It's the Pat Metheny 80 to 81 album on ECM, obviously from 1980-81, and features the Charlie Hayden, Jack DeJohnette, Dewey Redman and Michael Brecker lineup. So a really kind of hardcore jazz lineup, and sort of more jazz than the kind of Lyle Mays, Nana Vasconcelos band, of which I have several of their albums. I don't have this album, and I believe I need to say a big thank you to Bobby Gass, because I think he VCLT'd this to Ben. Ben already had it, so it's now come to me. It's the beauty of the VC. Thank you, Bobby, and thank you, Ben. Loving this. I also knew that there was a white label cameo album coming my way. Ben had said it was called Chocolate City. In fact, it's the label Chocolate City, and the album is Knights of the Sound Table. Now I've heard it, I do actually have this album, but I don't have a white label test pressing. So this actually sounds a lot better than the one I have. So I'm delighted, and my other copy will be winging its way to someone in the future. Love this, Ben. Thank you. For me, Cameo are the missing link between Earth, Wind and Fire and Parliament Funkadelic. And certainly their early albums, before they kind of trimmed down to a three-piece in the mid-80s, have always got some fantastic tracks, often some really kind of jazz-infused funk music, beautifully produced by Larry Brackman. Great, loving this, thank you. Finally, we have an album by someone I'd never heard of before, Steve Tilston, and Ben is very, well, he knows that I've got an interest in folk, but it's a kind of interest that is fairly limited in terms of the artists that I'm aware of. Obviously, I know Pentangle, incredible string band, Roy Harper, Bert Jansch, Nick Drake, John Martin, but I'd never come across Steve Tilston. He very much fits in that kind of canon of artists. This is his debut album from 1971. His voice is definitely very reminiscent of Nick Drake. Also, the other guy whose name has escaped me, who is the kind of main guy with the incredible string band and who's not Mike Herron. And also there's a kind of fragility of Donovan, almost a little slight mock, early sort of Tyrannosaurus Rex feel, a tiny bit. Less melancholy than Nick Drake. Really nice, strong songs, fantastic guitar playing. Apparently, yeah, I mean, he's managed to kind of sustain a career, although I don't think he's had sort of massive kind of accolades. Interestingly enough, I did a little bit of research and discovered that he'd done an interview with the underground UK magazine called Zigzag in 1971, where he'd been saying that he didn't really want to become rich and famous because his creative mojo would disappear. And apparently John Lennon saw this article in Zigzag and actually handwrote him a letter sort of disputing this. Unfortunately, Steve never got to get the letter. I think possibly someone at Zigzag hung on to it and ended up flogging it for quite a lot of money later on. In fact, there was a film that was made about this very incident, which I was reading about. But yeah, fantastic album. I'm looking forward to getting into it more. And this is a reissue on the Wah Wah Records label, and I would highly recommend it. And yeah, just want to, again, thank you so much, Ben. Such a kind gesture, very generous, and I've already got some thoughts on what's going to be winging its way back to you at some time in the future. And have a great week, everybody. Lots of love. See ya.